ने सबका पता वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह
Thank you, Ravinder Singh, facilitating from Columbus. Welcome to another session here, Coach Gurbani. And Ekunkarji and Irene, particularly, thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Now, in the normal scheme of things, Chetandeep was supposed to host and moderate, but evidently he has kid duty. So it's fallen to me to pick up the third passage from Kirtan Sola. So let's begin. Just to create the context, the first two passages that we discussed, and in my estimation at least, so this is just my outlook on what I took away, was that the Sola Bani is based off of the Sola, the genre of songs that are sung during a wedding, and Guru Nanak has used the metaphor of a bride's wedding, essentially to instruct us on how to overcome fear and anxiety, because like a bride, I mean, who is stepping across the threshold, going into an unknown world in a sense, is sort of, it evokes feelings of anxiety, and it also evokes feelings of anticipation. So it is an interesting sort of mix of feelings that a bride feels. And so when they sing solas, they are sung both to celebrate and as well to comfort the bride. And I think that this is the metaphor that he's used to help us understand where we are going and laying out the passage for us. And we did the second passage the last week, and my sense of it was that there are diverse religions and practices, but it is to the mind eventually that Guru Nanak is pointing to us. So he's saying, read the script of your own mind. So today, the third stanza that we are going to consider is, as you all know, a very popular one, and is sung in various renditions throughout the world wherever Sikhs gather. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'm sure all of you know the tradition that's associated with the composition, but just, I guess, can bear a little bit of repetition. We know that the composition was the outcome of Guru Nanak's visit to Jagannath Puri in present-day Odisha in India. Very important temple that's still there, dedicated to Jagannath. And tradition has it that Guru Nanak was asked to join in a ritual that is called Arti, and it's an old Hindu practice. And the word Arti itself, I've come across several explanations, and the root, being told, means adoration. It also can mean that which takes you from darkness to light. So it's that practice. And during an arti, as we all know, a salver or a plate is lit with oil lamps and perfumed with sandalwood and decorated with jewels and flowers and food offerings. And the salver is then waved in very measured circular motions in front of an idol. Typically, the idol represents the deity that is being propitiated or pleased. So that was the general idea of doing an arti. And the hymn. So Guru Nanak, when he was invited to join in the arti, his response was very characteristic of him. He was not shy of questioning orthodoxy or established conventions, and he sort of pointed to the universe, to nature, and as example of how the elements are perhaps harmoniously performing a cosmic symphony or an arthy, if you will. And the composition that we are going to consider is, in fact, his, is how he has used the the sort of terminology of a regular arti to indicate that the arti is already actually happening. And I find it interesting because I think that when I, to me, it is like Guru Nanak telling these folks, hey, why do you have to dumb down what is already happening in nature, what God has created? Why do you have to create your own ritual and dumb it down when you could actually kind of be part of this universal cosmic symphony that's going on around you? And I think that is the point that he was trying to make, and also the fact that we are part of nature and not divorced from nature. So therefore, the underlying message is that we need to sort of connect with ourselves and therefore connect with nature, and that is the nature of true worship. So that's the background. I actually many years ago had actually spent some time trying to translate the passage into English. So what I'll do is very quickly read through all the way just to the Rahau Tuk. I'm not going to go down all the way down, except the last couple of lines. So let me start with offer you my translation or my rendition of what I think is being said here. So I'm going to read the passage first, and then does somebody want to read the passage for me? That would be great.
Do you want me to read it for
Please,
you, Vijay?
yeah, please, yeah, please.
Uh, राखना श्री महला पहला गगन में थाल रव चंद दीपक बने तार का मंडल मोती धूप मन आलो पवन चवरो करे सगल बन राय फूलंत ज्योति कैसी आरती होए भव खंडना तेरी आरती अनहता शब्द बजंत पेरी रहाओ सहस सब नैन नन नैन है तोहे को सहस मूरत नना एक तोही सहस पद विमल नन एक पद गंध विन सहस तब गंध इव चलत मोही सब में जोत जोत है सोए तिस दे चानन सब में चानन होए गुर साखी जोत प्रगट होए जोत तिस भावे सो आरती होए हर चरण कमल मकरंद लोभत मनो अंदिनो अंदिनो मोहे आही प्यासा कृपा जल दे नानक सान होए जाते तेरे नए वाचा.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you very much. So let's go back to the first line. Gagan mein thal, Rav Chand Deepak bane tar ka mandal janak moti. I've translated it as no space to be the salver, the sun and the moon, the lamps, and the stars, the pearls strewn across. The words that I tried to really underline and understand here was Mandal Janak Moti. I wanted to understand what Janak really meant. And I discovered that the word Janak actually means a father, but it also means to know, as in know this to be that. So that is why I use the word know in my rendition. No space to be the salver, the sun to be, and the moons to be the lamp, and the stars to be the pearls. Now we talked about how the platter is usually strewn with pearls and so on. And then it goes on, Dhoop Malayanalo, Pavan Chavro, Kare Sagal Bandarai Fulant Jyoti. Here, the interesting word, so I've translated it to mean mountains, the sandalwood joss sticks, air the whisk, and your light brings all creation to bloom. I was struck by the word Malayanalo, and I discovered that Malayan comes from the Sanskrit root malya, which means a mountain. So here, what is being said is that the mountains are like sandalwood incense sticks that they use in the regular arti. And the air is actually the whisk. And even today, I mean, if you go to Hardwar, to Kashi, you will see that there are some pretty elaborate ceremonies with whisks used. And then Kare Sagal Bandarai Fulant Jyoti. Bandarai, of course, is all vegetation, flora, fauna. I mean, all-inclusive word here. And Fulant is one that blossoms forth, that comes, that blooms, and Jyoti. So here, Jyoti is referring to the divine spark or the divine light that runs through all of us. So Guru Nanak is actually telling the Pandits at Jagannath, this is all addressed to them, that mountains are the sandalwood joss sticks, air the whisk, and your light your here, of course, referring to Kalpur, brings all creation to bloom. Then, Kaisi Aarti Hoye, Bhav Khandana Teri Aarti. Bhav Khandana, of course, literally translated means destroyer of fear and is a reference to a Kalpur for Parbrahm. And Kaisi Aarti Hoye, I pondered over Kaisi Aarti Hoye because I felt that this could be read in multiple ways. It could be a question to the Pandit and say, what sort of an Aarti are you doing when there is an Aarti going on all the time around you? Or it could also mean, I'm trying to show you what an Aarti really should be like. Kaisi Aarti hoye, and I will tell you. And then he goes on to the next line where he says, Anhata Sabd Vajant Bheri. And this is a very, I think, crucial line because he's saying that true worship, this is the real adoration, because Aarti, as I indicated earlier, has a meaning which means adoration. So your true adoration comes where the Shabad, and I've translated Anhata Sabad Vajat Peri as your true worship, destroyer of fear from the previous line, and continuing here, is in the temple of your creation, where the unstruck symphony of the word is the kettle drum, because Bheri means a kettle drum. And in temples, it is traditional to actually beat on a drum, as it is in some gurdwaras where they actually beat on what is called a nagara. But here, Guruji is telling us that true worship is happening in the temple of your creation, and the unstruck symphony of the word is the kettle drum. Again, these are pointers to the fact that this is an inner process, that it is not an outside ritual, true worship, that is. And then he goes on for several lines to say that he's essentially saying that you are, Sahastav Nan Hai Tohe, or Sahasmurd Nana Ek Tui, you're in all eyes and yet in none. I think the whole thrust here is Sahas Pad Bimal Nan Ek Pad Gan. Is the thrust to me is that you are homogenized in your creation. You're in every particle. You are in no specific set of eyes, but you're in sight. I mean, let's put it that way. And then he goes on to say, your presence, sab meh jyot hai soe, tis de chanan, sab meh chanan hoye. It is your light that dwells in all creation, and it is the radiance of your light that animates all life. Then he moves on to Gur Sakhi Jyot Pargat Hoye. Gur Sakhi Jyot Pargat Hoye. How do you manifest Pargat? How do you manifest this light? And you do that through Gur Sakhi, which I have translated as Guru wisdom. It is the Guru wisdom that enlightens the mind. And then, of course, which is characteristic of Guru Nanak, he always sort of kind of ends his passages with Jyotis Pave So Aarti Hoye. What pleases you is true worship. And the last two lines are significant in there he repeats, in a sense, what he has already said, namely that the Guru wisdom enlightens the mind. He says, Har charan kaval makarand lobat, lobat mano. Lobat is I crave for the thirst of your wisdom. Har charan kaval makarand lobat mano, andino mohe ahi pyasa. This is a thirst. So please slake my thirst. And then he addresses Par Brahm here again to say, Kripa Jalade. Now, Kripa Jal is the water of mercy. And in Gurbani, water is also synonymous with Naam. Jis jal nid karan tum jag mein aaye. So here is the key again. Kripa Jalade Nanak Sarang ko hoye jate tere naivasa. Again, Naam. And that is how he ends this passage. So this is essentially my take on it, and we'll get into a discussion. But just a couple of observations that I want to share on this before I, pass it on to you guys, is that the irony is that in many of our gurdwaras, this sort of arti is sung even today. And the irony is that it is sung to the accompaniment of this very Shabad that we are considering. And I believe in Patna Sahib and in Hazur Sahib, very definitely, this is a practice that continues. And so what I would like you to consider when you respond is, what are your thoughts on the fact that we are still burdened with the same superstitions and rituals that Guru Nanak is trying to, help us get away from? And the other thing that I want you to consider is the fact that in this Shabad, as well as in the previous ones, Guru Nanak is consistently stressing the need for self-understanding. That is, accessing our inner minds so that the light of Guru's wisdom may actually shed light for us. With that said, let me go around the panel here. Chetandeep Singh, your take?
Hanji Vesri, thank you for going through the Shabad. So, while you were going through, and the moment you mentioned the words questioning orthodoxy, something popped into my head, but I wasn't sure if my sharing these thoughts will be productive to the understanding of this Shabad. But nevertheless, since you already touched on that, on Patna Sahib, Hazur Sahib, so let me just expand on that a little bit. I mean, not only, so here are my thoughts. So it's not only about the arti practices that are going around in certain gurdwaras, but again, I respect the Guru a lot, but what do you make of, I mean, what happens at every single gurdwara that we do, as in, we have Chandoa, we have Chaur Sahib, we have Rumala, and we have this kind of, not arti, but something going on, right? I mean, something external. So the question that came to my head is like, how do you balance these external practices of whatever we have, even at our homes, and we have Prakash with Chandoa and Chaur Sahib and everything? How do you balance these practices with the arti that you mentioned? Like you said, we are all nature. So where is that line where we can just simply let go of everything and say, we are just nature, and let me get rid of all the, I would say, baggage or everything, and let me just be nature, right? I mean, those are the thoughts. But just to add a second question, which is directly related to the understanding of this Shabad, like a very telling pankti, as you pointed out, is Gur Sakhi Jot Pargat Hoye. So if Gur Sakhi is a message, then how do I do that in my practical life? How do I go in front of the Gur Sakhi? So we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chetandeep. I think those are very valid and important questions, and I'm not sure I have the answers. But before I pass it on, I just very quickly, I think we are nature, yes, but I believe that we are also not individuals in isolation, and that we are always part of a collective. And in fact, that is what informs us, shapes us, makes us. Um, and I think that there is group behavior that is always uh, that it always brings out some sort of a ritual, for want of a better word. I mean, and I think that some others on the panel might have a much deeper sort of insight into this. But I think eventually there is no running away from a ritual. That there needs to be a balance. So perhaps Guru Nanak's message might, the question to ask is he really uh, condemning the practice itself, or is he saying that, by the way, something might be missing here? It's all very well to have this very nice external ceremony, and we all like ceremonies, and we will have ceremonies. Is he suggesting that along with that ceremony, we ought to be also clued inwards or centered inwards, you see? So because we just can't be one way or the other, to my mind, because the idea of the Chandoa, the idea of, a lot of these symbols have actually come from Guru Nanak himself. When he, for example, passed on the guruship to Guru Angad. If you read Tikke Ki War, you will see a lot of royal symbolism coming in. So it's a valid question to ask. I will pass it on. Gursaki Jot Pargat Hoye, I think we are doing that right now, collectively trying to understand the Guru wisdom. That said, let me go to Kulwant Panji.
Hanji, Vijay, I think I will also speak subjectively. Like Chetandeep said, he talked about all these outer rituals. I'm not exactly sure. There's a Shabad of Ravidas ji into Granth Sahib, which says ki sari jehdi rituals hagiyan, it's like, the buds and then the flower comes. Once the flower comes, then nothing matters. Tad tak hagiyan jadon tak sanu, manifestation nahi hundi hai, realization nahi hundi. Like Chetandeep said, now he's realizing that, jadon flower aa janda te birds automatically, they go away. So like as he's saying that, I also think that I'm very personally mesmerized by this Shabad. I read this Shabad multiple times before, but now this time, how beautifully Guru Nanak Sahib, he woven all these metaphors like nature's phenomena. They are all together. How they are, they are part of cosmic arti. So we need to be, like you said, kaisi arti hoye. This arti is going on constantly, and I feel like Guru Nanak is, inviting us to be part of that arti. And how I can be part of that arti, why I am not. Like we mentioned, we highlighted the line Gur Sakhi Jot Par Guru. We need to follow Guru's Tikya, come into Guru's Sharan, and then like Guru Nanak Sahib humble himself and ask for Kirpal Jal, the same way we need to ask for Kirpal Jal, so taki naam da vasa ho sake. That's how I feel, and this is my own personal take on today. And Hanji, give it to the rest of the panel.
Yeah. Hanji, thank you. Ekunkarji, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, very good. So now, before you start, here's something I want to add to my response to both Kulwant Panji and Chetandeep. So it's a good, valid question, because it's questioning the validity or the usefulness of ritual. And what I want to add to that is that if no ritual, as Chetandeep seems to suggest, is the way to go, or as Kulwant Panji has said, when the flower blooms, then you're done, as the Bhagats have said. To which I would respond that the Bhagats were very focused on individual, on just the individual themselves. Guru Nanak seemed to have a broader mission because he was very concerned with establishing a community and a society and so on. So the question that I want you to bear in mind is, and I would appreciate your insight, is if indeed Guru Nanak were actually criticizing and dismissing all ritual, then the question is, he started a new set of practices in Kartarpur. We know that. As a matter of fact, this Shabad is his reinterpretation of the existing Aarti. So, and we know for a fact that this Aarti was sung in Kartarpur as well, as was Japji Sahib. So, and the point is, the succession rite itself points to a great deal of royal symbolism, and the community has developed its own practices. So, what's being said here? Your take, please.
Well, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It's nice to be back with you, Paul.
Nice to have you.
We got really busy with the Robotics World Championship.
I see that.
So now I'm kind of getting back into Urbani here. Well, there's a lot of things that come to mind. One of my favorite lines from Japji is the line Nanak Bhagata Sada Vagas, and that beautiful notion that there is no end to the blooming when you're a bhagat, that you continue to grow and you flower. To me, in the RT, the phrase Anahata Shabad Vajanta Bedi is really the key. And I want to kind of share a personal experience and then talk about it from a cosmological view. But, there was one really, really, really blessed experience I had meditating in the presence of Siri Singh Sabji, where I had an experience of the Anahat Shabad. And it was, we talk about the Big Bang, in sort of Western physics as the source, as the beginning of the universe. And in the experience that I had, it wasn't the Big Bang, it was the gong. It was like the big gong at the heart of creation, only it was going. It wasn't like a moment. It was a constant, steady, soundless vibration at the heart of creation that was continually to send out the waves and the subtle sound, the shabad, that brings things into form. And once we go, like when we look at the structure of the arti, it begins with a description of nature. And then when we go into Anahat Shabad, the tone of the passage changes and it gets into the multiplicity of the universe. And this is where I think Guru Nanak was brilliant. His brilliance really, one of the ways he was so brilliant is that he was the master of going into the form of the moment to bring people not to formlessness, because you can't get from form to formlessness overnight. You have to go into Gyan Khand, and Gyan Khand is the realm of Nod, and it's the realm of the multiverse, where it's not just one God, it's all gods. It's not just one flower, it's all flowers. It's not just one world, it's all world. It's like I'm seeing my world, and then I go into the Nod or the Anahat Shabad, and I'm awakened to the fact that my specific form is a manifestation of the divine, but it's just one in this multiverse of manifestations that are really different. And the need for the human ego to get out of identifying, you have to have form. You cannot go through time and space without a specific form. When the mind locks into the idea that this is the only thing, that's where we have problems. And so he shatters that ego by taking the reader or the singer into the multiverse and saying, you've got to see the divine in every form, not just your own. And so what he was a guru to the Hindus, and he was a Baba to the Muslims, and he was a Lama to the Buddhists. And everywhere he went, he could go into the form of the people to elevate them to the transcended view. And I think that what we've lost in the process over the centuries is that we've gotten locked into a form that we call Sikhi, and we've lost the multiverse that the Guru wants us to recognize. And I don't think you can get to the multiverse by destroying the ritual. I think that what you have to do what Guru Nanak did, which is to elevate it back up into saying, there is no one form of Sikhi. There is no one form. We have this form, but we've got to open our eyes, embrace the diversity again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, appreciate that.
Happy everybody gave their opinion, very nice opinion. I'm happy you gave the little bit background of this, historical background, where it happened. The second question which Chetandeep raised about rituals and Pahanji, Kulant Pahanji, a very good answer. I just want to say on the Gravani that answer, Phal karan phuli banraye, phal karan phuli banraye, phal laga phuli bilaye. Gyane karan karm abhyas, gyan pragasya to karme nas. We have to do these rituals to get the gyan one. Once we are in this stage of gyan, then we don't need these rituals. So we have to be honest with ourselves. Either we are into that stage or we are not. So, Falkan fully, you know all the meaning of this. This is from Guru Granth Sahib. Gulbant Pahanji did very good answer. I appreciate. I have a question now. Everything you have said. How do we relate these? No, this is independent completely. Rag Tanasri, Mahalla Pehla, Gagan Mein Thal. I don't find any relation of this with the previous one, which we did previous two Shabad. Can somebody give me the relation of this? This is, I know they come again in Guru Granth Sahib two places. Once here on page 12, where it started, where we are reading from. Then it will come at page 351, and other Shabads will come according to their sequence, wherever they fit. But anybody can tell me a reason here, no? Why? What is the relation between each of these? These are five sentences. Chauthi Pashahi, then Panvi Pashahi, that's the last of this. Please, this is my question, but
Thank you. Thank you. Anji, Gurjeet Singh Veer ji, can you respond to that question?
No, just go in it.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah,
Did you hear? Did you hear
the question?
You heard. Okay.
Yes,
can you respond to the question?
The concept is still continuing from Sokar. So all these Shabads we have studied so far are covering Sokar, and this one is also covering the Sokar. But before you enter the Sokar, you have to do an Arti. That is what is being emphasized here. Arati is a word in which the wisdom Arati, she's a feminine, she has to imbue in the color of the husband. And this concept has not started from Nanak ji, it started from Kabir ji, when he says, Leho Arati ho Purkh Niranjan, Satgur Pujo Pai. So that is the concept of Gurmat. Until you reach that stage of Puran Brahm, or your Buddhi becomes into the mool or into the inner self, there is no Arati done. Because the word in itself says Arati. And further, Kabir ji has said, after that what happens? Which Nanak ji also says. Kabir ji says, Panche Shabad Anahad Bajje. This is when you enter the house. Sange Sarang Pani. When you are in one with Sarang Pani, your mool, then you get the Anhatnad within you. Kabir Das Teri Arati Kini. So he has said, I have already done it. Nirankar Nirbani. The force which I am ultimately absorbed in is Nirankar. Sach Khand Vase Nirankar. And Nirbani means you don't hear his voice like ours. But Nanak ji has taken it Anhata Shabad. That same Sarang, whatever Kabir ji has said, Panche Shabad Anahad Vajje, he has said, the same way as Anhatuni. But before that, even Ravidas ji has said the same thing. Naam tero arati majjan murare hari ke naam bina chuthe sagal prasari. So the whole aim of the Shabad is going. Before Sri Shan has also said tu Deepakit Saji Arati Varna Jaun Kamalapati. Kamalapati is your mool, the one who is sitting in. So if we took now look at the main Shabad as Uncle Ji is asking. So last
No,
one we had it.
link the previous Shabad, Janji.
So when we were reading the last Shabad, it was coming to firstly Sokar Rakh Vadai Toy. That when you stay there in Sokar Rakh Vadai Toy, you will hear the Anadnad. That is next stage of Brahm, which we obtain the Par Brahm stage. Then Visvechasya Kadiya Pera, but Nanak Karte Kya Kehte ways is for us. The one who is here in Pavsagar, he is in very different ways, but the one who is above us is just in one ways. So there, how they are related from the different ways you enter the one ways, and then you are in the car. Sokar, and which has been emphasized last time too when we were reading. Baba. Baba is also referred to Parmeshwar. Baba Jaikar Karte Kirti Hoy. Or you can say Baba Jaikar Karte Aarti Hoy. It is same. Sokar Rakh Vadai to that I want to enter the house, which he then continues in this Gagan Mein Thal Rav Chand Deepak Bane, which is giving an emphasis that the whole creation is so big, you can't go through its periphery. How come you can take something and try to show him? It's basically to belittle him. And then further, I think Aisi Aarti ho, he's explaining what is Aarti. Pavkhandana teri Aarti. You have to merge in the Pavkhandana. The next stage is Anatha Shabad Vajant Peri. Then you will hear that Anatha Shabad, which Kabir ji says Panche Shabad Anahad Baje. Then he's explaining the Roop, the Saroop of the Parmeshwar. When he says Sahastab Nayan, there is not one person sitting there. There are billions, trillions who don't know how many are sitting there, who are keeping an eye on us here. Who are trying to do whatever they could, physically giving us the food and also giving us the spiritual food. But still, Nanna Sahastab Nayan Nayan hai toy ko. This is about the Sachkhand. Sahas Murat Nanna ek to hi. But still, which is very hard to describe what is that Murat, because it is doing it through the Shabad. And further, Sahaspad Bimalan Ek Pad Gandhamin, that I don't find any foul smelling gun coming out of Sachkhand. It's all coming as fragrance from there. And I am basically imbued. Sab mein jo tha soe tis de chanan, sab mein chanan hoye. This is about a mool. Gursakhi jot pargat hoye. If you read Gurbani, you can do Aarti, enter the Dar, and then from Dar into the cup. That's the whole thing.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you very much. We are pressed for time. I have 3 people to go to. Ripudaman, coming to you for your take.
Hanji Virji, if you are pressed for time, then Rene do Virji.
No. I've come to you because I want to give you the time. Otherwise, I could have allowed Gurjeet Singh Virji to carry on.
Okay. I lost my train of thought. Okay. First, I think so. There was a comment on rituals and all. Mostly it has been answered. I just want to offer one perspective that
Please.
it has never been a criticism of rituals. It is that rituals bereft of understanding that of the presence of Vaheguru is probably meaningless, especially if it increases one's home. So I think that's what it might have been even at Puri, because the Aarti at Puri never stopped even after listening to Guru Nanak Dev Ji.
Well, we haven't either.
Yeah, and we haven't either in our lives.
Yeah.
Also, any discipline carried by more than one person ultimately becomes a ritual. So that is also there. Just don't become in home when you're doing it that I did it. So this is a humbling experience that our Aarti is minuscule, teeny tiny of what the nature actually does. The second is there is actually a trivia I wanted to point out. Rabindranath Tagore, the story associated with him. It's on Wikipedia. You guys can read it. It is he wrote the national anthem, and Balraj Sahni had asked him that why don't you write a similar one for the world? And that Guru Nanak Dev Ji has already written it, and it's not only for the world, it's for the universe. And he actually translated it in Bengali also. So just a trivia related to this particular Shabad. What else? Was there any question? I don't know if there was any other question, but my question would be related to Anhata Shabad. That what would it refer to in general? So,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, incidentally, Tagore's first line of that poem reads, "Tuhare arti kore chandra tapa." That's his rendering of this. You're indeed right about that. So I have Rana Virji to go to. Is he there?
Was listening mode. I just came back. I was traveling, so I'm just listening that today.
You're just listening? Okay.
Yes,
Eileen, are you there? Harvinder, is Eileen on? Hi, yes, now we can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I had a
You've been in
little
hiding.
muting problem.
You've been in
I was
hiding.
having muted, yeah, hiding in the mute land.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of circling back a little bit to the multiverse question that was posed earlier, because I'm still mulling that one over a bit, and I'll just share, you know, what I was thinking. And this is just a very simple take on the Shabad. And I think that what was interesting to me was Guru Nanak saying, you know, kind of offering an alternative ritual in a way, right? Like saying this other version of the ritual is what he's offering. And so when I step back and think about that, it seems like, well, is it a choice between ritual A or ritual B, and ritual B is the one that Guru Nanak's offering about, you know, just listening to nature, for example, or you know, the sun as the lamp and that type of thing, right? And I was like, well, is it that? Is it just saying this is a better version of a ritual? And if so, then why? Why is that one better? Or is he posing the concept that, you know, there's many ways to approach this in sort of maybe like a multiverse type of a way, right? And I think I don't get the sense that I kind of don't get the sense that either one is true, because we know that this is the journey of the mind, right? And so I think what's interesting to me is just posing the question at all, is to say, well, why did you choose to do this ritual instead of just, you know, going to nature? Like, what is it about that? What are you? It's almost like asking, what are you doing? Why are you choosing this? What's in your head? What's going on with that choice? And so thinking about the journey of the mind, and I think it harkens back to other messages in Gurbani about external solution versus internal solution. But I think once you're faced with that question and you're not following a ritual blindly, but you're saying, I've chosen to do this. I could have simply gone to nature, but no, I've chosen this other ritual maybe, or I'm looking at this ritual, right? You say, oh, okay, this is something I've done with some kind of intent, and then question my intent and kind of try to understand what I'm seeking to gain from it versus, you know, something that's already available in case, you know, it would be like my mool and my inward journey is available to me. And so that's I think it provokes that path to me, and kind of poses that question back to myself instead of blindly following something. And it's just very much parallel to me to the pursuit of the Maya and Halme and things which are just sort of almost like empty habits and you know, worldly pursuits, versus saying, well, have you given that any thought? Have you considered an alternative? Why you're doing what you're doing?
Okay.
So that was where I came from.
Thank you very much. We are done with round one. With the time we have left, let's do quickly round two. Chetandeep Singh, any follow-up thoughts, takes?
Yeah, Hanji Virji. So, एक second. Okay. Yes.
So 1 minute.
Hanji, so a very interesting question or rather observation coming to my head. This Shabad actually says, Jyotis pave so aarti hoy. So when I read this line, it gives me a sense of that even while I'm sleeping or I'm a manmuk or whatever state I am in, there is nowhere to go. There is nothing to become, right? I mean, it's just the acceptance of things as they are right now, even with myself, right? There is no becoming. But couple of lines further in the Shabad, Guru Sahib says, Kirpa jalde nanak saran ko. Like pyasa, he used the word pyasa. So how do I put together both Jyotis Pave Swarti Hoy, which is not becoming, but on the other hand, there is a pyas, there is a thirst. How do I put these together?
Okay, very good. We'll take that question forward. Ekokarji, do you want to address that as your second, your follow-up?
No, I'm sorry. I was writing notes about what I wanted to say for my follow-up.
Okay, all right. All right.
And it really centers on this idea of ritual. And I was listening to what Eileen was talking about. And I think that as human beings, we create ritual because it encodes memory. And that when memory presents us from being present, that's when it becomes a problem. And I think Guru Nanak saw in the ritual that they had encoded the memory of the sun and the wind, but they were so focused on that encoding, they'd lost touch with what they were memorializing. So that's a thought.
Thank you. I think that's very insightful. Gurdeep Singh Virji, any second follow-up thoughts?
Whole name of the game is from extrovert to introvert. We have go from outside to in. Those Pandit asked the question to Guru Nanak because it was easier for them to concentrate on the statue, which is made of stone. But when we talk about God, which is invisible, we don't see him, how can we concentrate on him? Then Guru Nanak gave all the examples that everything else is created by that unseen God. But he's everywhere, he's everywhere, he's invisible, you can realize him. That's why he quote all these examples of sun, the moon, and everything, wind and everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji. Hanji Ripudaman, any final thoughts?
No, Virji, I couldn't understand Chetandeep's question, so...
You could or you couldn't?
Couldn't.
You couldn't? Well, give him a call. Kulwant Penji, any final thoughts?
You know, like we all did Rahau Tuk and Hata Shabad Bajant Meri, that really struck me. And it's continue how I can realize it. I need to wake up and become conscious. It's all my mind's journey. I think that's all I'm thinking right now.
Hanji. Theek hai ji. Thank you. Hanji, so we have a couple of minutes left. Virji, Gurjeet Singh ji, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I understood the question by Chetanji. So I think he's reading it nicely. If you can put that question, Jyotis Pave Suarti Hoye is my mool. The Buddhi has to become one with him. That is the first step. And then what happens is, after that you ask for Naam Padarth, which is the Anhatnad. So through Gurmani, through Gur Ki Sakhi, Gur Sakhi Jyot Pargat Hoye. After that, you are one, and now this one is asking to merge in the Shabad Surat Ka Mel, Kirpa Jalde Nanak Sarang Kau. Nanak is now Sarang. The Shabad is Anahat Shabad, Anahad Shabad, which cannot be killed. Hukam nu modya nahi ja sakda. If it has come that your death will happen, no one can turn it back. Oh, Anahatya Anahad. Jiri hatya nahi ho sakdi. The word I am speaking, it can only travel few kilometers at the most. This Shabad is ever for there and could never die. It is the one who is running the whole show. So I'll just stop here. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
So,
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Chetanji, was that your question?
Hanji Vijay, I think we alluded to the answer. I couldn't
Okay.
get it 100%, but I think
Okay.
I
All
need
right.
to offline.
Very good. Well, we're at that time again. And thank you all so much for joining in. Great conversation as always. And we shall meet again next Wednesday. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.